UK Parliament's Foreign Affairs Committee report saying their position does not reflect the British government's policies. Similar sentiments were echoed previously by both Premier Alden McLaughlin and Speaker of the House McKeeva Bush. The report was released last week. It calls for belongership to be removed from the territories. That would pave the way for British citizens to vote and stand for elections in overseas territories. It also calls for a date for legalizing same-sex marriages in the OTs and the implementation of public beneficial ownership registries by the year 2020. Those recommendations have provoked widespread protests across UK territories and here at home. Over the weekend, the Governor, Mr. Martin Roper, addressed the issue on his social media pages, saying that he fully understands the concerns expressed about the report, and he says he will take the concerns of the Cayman Islands to the FCO. Many say the report goes a step too far. Those like the Premier and Speaker of the House say there's no need for serious concern. Tonight, we're joined by senior partner at Travers Thorp Alberga, Mr. Anthony Travers, to discuss the report and its implications. Mr. Travers, thanks so much for taking the time to be here today.
Good evening.
Really appreciate it. All right, so we heard from Mr. Roper, both in the press and on his own social media pages. He's trying to build a bridge, and it seems like you know, while there might be some controversy stirred about all of this, there are those who are saying, everybody just take a deep breath and calm down. Let's see how this all plays out for a second. Starting on the first one, what do you think of the governor's comments?
Well, I think the governor has said precisely the right thing. The underlying question remains, though, and that is whether this is a bridge too far. When you look at the United Kingdom, you find the members of Parliament there are elected by constituents who have marginal to no understanding of the affairs of the Cayman Islands. And the elected politicians in the United Kingdom who sit on these subcommittees clearly demonstrate marginal to no understanding of the affairs of the Cayman Islands. And the question really is whether these are the sort of people in whom you wish to entrust your destiny.
Sure.
When you look at the nature of the relationship in psychological terms, between the United Kingdom and the Cayman Islands, it's not adult-adult, it's parent-child.
Right.
But in this situation, we find it's the parent that's behaving in a delinquent fashion.
Right. So two questions off of that. First, does that mean that Cayman has failed to, I guess, market itself properly or get the correct message across to those MPs? And second of all, is that sort of, are you implying maybe that independence needs to be seriously considered in this case?
Well, I think there's no doubt that there's been a very, very poor job of explaining the interests of the Cayman Islands to MPs. I mean, they come out from time to time, they go away and clearly think exactly whatever it was they were thinking in the first place.
Right.
I mean, there's been no real effective persuasion in relation to what we're doing, why it's different, why a beneficial ownership register is hazardous in the Cayman Islands, but maybe perfectly acceptable in the United Kingdom, various reasons I can go into later. But clearly, this isn't a one-off incident. It keeps happening, and at some point you've got to say, would you be better off being the master of your own destiny?
So what do you think?
Personally, I think with one or two constitutional amendments, you could not be in a worse position by being independent.
Really?
I would certainly advocate a balanced budget amendment. I would certainly advocate an amendment to effectively rule out direct taxation in the Cayman Islands, put those into the Constitution, a variable only by unanimous vote. But with those two safeguards in place, I actually think the Cayman Islanders are in a better position to manage their own future than these politicians in the United Kingdom, some of whose comments, frankly, about the Cayman Islands verge on laughable.
Again, because of the lack of knowledge of what exactly is happening.
Well, I think not only is it a lack of knowledge, Kevin, but there is a great deal of political posturing. The interests of these English politicians, Dame Hodge, Andrew Mitchell, has got more to do with currying favor with their electoral base than it has to do with the best interests of the Cayman Islands.
Do you feel like Cayman and maybe the overseas territories in general are sort of bearing the brunt of the Brexit debacle and everything and all the fallout surrounding that?
I don't know. I don't know that there is a correlation. I think that the Brexit debacle and the comments of this parliamentary subcommittee simply exhibit the same mediocre competence level.
Sure.
And that we are, suffering as a result of a failure to understand and demonstrate adequate competence in relation to our affairs.
Are you concerned at all, and we'll wrap up with this, Mr. Travers, are you concerned at all that this will go beyond just being recommendations and a report?
Well, the recommendations, of course, are to the FCO, the Foreign Commonwealth Office, who have demonstrated for over 100 years complete and utter incompetence in dealing with the colonies. But interestingly, there's a United Nations case out today which says how wrong the British government were in dealing with the Chagos Islanders, which again was FCO blundering of the worst sort. So I don't have any great confidence in the FCO and their recommendations in turn.
All right. Mr. Travers, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate your insight.
Thank you.
All right.